in Paramus, New Jersey. It's cold outside. I've flown back east. This is going to be episode 138 of Coast2Coast Pinball. It's an awesome episode. It's a multi-person interview episode. We're breaking new ground on Coast2Coast Pinball. I love it. Let's go. Welcome to Coast2Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast commentary. I'm a man out of quarters. Tonight is a special edition of Coast2Coast Pinball. It is not an interview with one person. It is not an interview with two people. It's an interview with three guests on Coast2Coast Pinball, which a technological feat if there ever was one. All done wirelessly through the interwebs from my hotel here in beautiful Paramus, New Jersey, where I'm coming to you not live here on Tuesday night, February 24th, 2015. So Papa and the Papa World Championships and the Papa Circuit Final actually are all coming up in a couple weeks in Scott Township, Pennsylvania at the Papa headquarters, and I have been trying to have Mark Steinman come on the show and talk Papa and talk about his thoughts on pinball for over a year now. It seems like, maybe not quite a year, but since last year. But the man gets busy. He's a busy man, and he agreed to come on the show this month ahead of Papa. And as a bonus, he's bringing with him Doug Polka, who is on the team there at Papa, who can be seen on many of the Papa TV Live episodes, and then the host of Papa TV Live and a top 25 player in the world, John Replogle, something. I will say that 10 different ways. And so I got all three of these guys who are all really heavily into the Pittsburgh-centric pinball scene and all heavily influential there at Papa and Papa headquarters. Very fun interview. It's a little bit of a jumping around on my part. I'll apologize to you, friendly listener. Having three different people on the show, and I want to talk to all of them, ask them all questions. My mind's going to a million different places. I will just preface this interview, since it's already happened, because I travel in time, of course. I will preface this interview by saying these are people who do a lot for pinball, not just pinball as a competitive activity, sport, whatever you want to call it, but just promoting pinball in people's conscience. And it's amazing. So really enjoyed chatting with these guys. I hope you enjoy what we got here. A lot of fun answers, a lot of just good information. We're talking about Papa. We're talking about Pinburg. We're talking about the Replay FX show this summer at the main convention center in Pittsburgh. One thing that Mark did bring up to me post-interview is Pinburg, and you'll hear us reference Pinburg, which is the largest match play tournament in the world. 700 entries to Pinburg were sold in less than 10 hours this year. There's a 60-man woman wait list to get into Pinburg. Pinburg's a really cool format where you're guaranteed multiple days of head-to-head play. Amazing format. I will be there playing. And Mark wanted me to point out that since it is still months away and there is a refund time period where people may not have their travel plans put in, if you are interested in playing at Pinburg and you're not on the waiting list, get on the waiting list. 700 people. If 10% drop out or change or can't get there, that's 70 spots, and I don't think there's 70 spots on that wait list. So get on the wait list. Mark thinks there will be many people, getting pulled off the wait list and put into the tournament. So, without further ado, I give you Mark, Doug, and John, and episode 138 of Coast2Coast Pinball. Joining me tonight, Mark Steinman, Doug Polka, John Replogle. How are you all doing all at once? Talk over ourselves.
Fantastic.
Doing good.
Awesome.
Oh, see, that was good. Thank you guys for coming on. I know Mark and I have chatted on and off for over a year now. We were trying to get Mark on the show before last year's Papa tournament, which I guess wasn't as far back as I think it was because we've changed our dates around. But you get incredibly busy this time of year, as I understand. And I thought it'd be fun to have all you guys on since I've been watching Papa TV Live, watching the Papa Roadshow, and really enjoying what you guys have done out of the Papa headquarters and looking forward to some great events and great content this year in this hobby of ours. So that's kind of what I had in mind, and I know we've got the Replay FX coming up. So very big year, so I really appreciate you guys taking some time tonight to come on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I mean, my pleasure. Mark, I kind of want to start with you, and just for listeners of the show who maybe don't know who everybody is here, give me a brief rundown of, I know the stories have been told how we all got into pinball, and we all have our story about that, but how did you get to where you are as one of the luminaries, one of the biggest names in our hobby, really? You laugh at that, but it's true.
Oh, wow. I've never heard it quite put that way. Well, I mean, the short answer is that they just called me and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said no, absolutely not. It was too much work, and it meant I couldn't play in the tournaments, and just, didn't seem like it was something that I had the time to put into it. And then I came home and I talked to my wife about it, and she basically looked at me and had a heart-to-heart, and she said, "Let's be honest, you're never going to win the world championship, so it might be kind of cool to run it." And I started. I think it was Papa 14, and actually no, I take that back. The first I can't even remember. The first tournament I ran there was the first Pinburg, and then I think that was after Papa 13, so Papa 14 would have been the first World Championships. And, just sat down with a crew that was down there, came up with some ideas, brainstormed, and I don't know, here I am today. It seems like these guys here, Doug and John and I and a bunch of others, all sit down at Papa all the time and just think about different ways to make our lives more complicated. And, hey, it's working.
That's quite the clubhouse you guys have there in the Papa headquarters. Not a bad place to hang out and talk shop, is it?
No, I memean, anytime there's 5, 6, now closing in on 700 games within a short walk, you're doing okay. There's never a shortage of games to play or things to do. But to be honest with you, you'd be surprised at how much time we spend working on things rather than actually sitting down playing them. Usually whenever we're playing games, it's because we're talking about something else or trying to brainstorm or solve a problem.
So your official title, I guess, at Papa has been Director of Operations, which kind of makes you the creative force, the one kind of dreaming up how things are going to run, schedules, and putting together your team. Is that kind of the basic gist of that?
Yes and no. I think the way that you probably said it puts a little bit too much emphasis on me. The one thing that Papa, if I'm proud of one thing at Papa, it's in the team that I've kind of built or brought in, because none of this stuff would happen without the people that are around me. And I think I get a lot of credit for things that I don't necessarily do. Director of Operations, yeah, that's the title, but I'm not the guy down there making all the calls. Like one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is the Papa TV Live. That's a perfect example of something where John just called me one night and said, "Hey, I got an idea. Let's use this equipment down here and do it." And I talked to him about it for a while, and we came up with some different ideas. But that was a project that he came up with entirely.
So, John, that brings us down to you, down on my list here. By the way, John is currently ranked 24th on the IFPA Pinball World Rankings, so congratulations on a good run you got going there.
Well, thanks.
Notice how he left your ranking out, Mark.
Mark's ranked 242nd.
Please
Doug,
leave mine out.
Oh, Doug, yours is 4 digits like mine, so I've got it, but we don't have to talk about 1,329th in the world. I'm just kidding. So, John, how did you get... I mean, obviously, you have a history in the Pittsburgh area, but how did you get involved at Papa? When did you start becoming sort of like a mainstay there on the scene and working with Mark at the facilities, and then now what you guys are doing, Papa TV Live?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. It's sort of like one of those things, you just wake up one day and it's sort of happening. I know me and Mark were playing in league, and I found out that he was working down there, and I'd always been one to come down and hang out. I was always interested in pinball repairs and stuff like that. And then he started telling me about some of the stuff he had in mind, and I was like, wow, this is awesome ideas, but can I help? And I don't know, it just sort of and it wasn't even like that. It just sort of happened.
Just sort of everybody loves the pinball, and you saw opportunities to help out and kind of join together.
I mean, yeah.
It's like the X-Men, really, if you think about it. It's not like the X-Men.
I guess
That's
so.
Okay. It's nothing at all like the X-Men.
Okay.
Maybe the mutant part.
There you go. Yes. So Doug, when I read your bio and kind of like looked on your history, you were already running tournaments and kind of establishing yourself in the Pittsburgh scene, certainly, and now you are a full-time, part of the team. You're helping running the Papa TV Live shows. You're a tournament director at all the Papa tournaments. What's been your kind of journey into the world of Papa?
It's kind of interesting because I was actually talking to Elizabeth Cromwell, who's one of the other employees at Papa, the other day, and it's weird how Mark's and my pinball paths are kind of intertwined because, Mark, if I'm correct, you got into competitive pinball basically by coming to the PPL, which I'm one of the organizers of.
Yeah, my brother found it. I had no idea competitive pinball exists, and he said, "Hey, there's this thing down on, down in Pittsburgh. We should go check it out." I live about an hour and a half away from Pittsburgh, and we had been just going bar hopping, looking for new games because pinball was fun, and had no idea competitive scene existed. We go down there, and my introduction to competitive pinball was getting screamed at by Al Tomka.
That's pretty much the initiation for everyone in Pittsburgh. But so Mark came to League, so I introduced him in a way to competitive pinball, and then probably a year or two after that, after Mark got involved with Papa, he called me and said, "Hey, I know you organize a bunch of tournaments and you help run the league and whatever. Would you like to come out and help out at Papa?" And it really didn't take me too long to say yes to that.
So when I started really diving into pinball again as an adult, a lot of people would talk about Papa. It's like, "Oh, dude, you got to go to Papa. They have so many games," because for a long time you had under one roof the only really collection of any sort that size. I mean, we had the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas and a few others out there, but really Papa was this kind of ghost to me of all these machines. But quickly as I got into, really diving into this hobby, I could tell that Papa was so much more than just this giant collection of machines. It was really, like we're talking about, one of the driving forces of competitive pinball. And what I think I've seen happen over the past couple years, especially post your very successful Kickstarter you ran in 2013, Papa is taking the flag and really running with it and just promoting pinball in people's consciousness. I would love to hear everybody kind of talk about what they feel like their role is with that and what that means to you and what you want to do with that, continuing on.
I could probably speak to that. I mean, what you just described is pretty close to the entire reason we're running the Replay Effects Arcade and Gaming Festival. We're trying to spread pinball and broaden the base. One of the things that Papa does better than I think it does anything else is runs big events. And that's our strength. There's a lot of different people in pinball who make pinball great, both on the competitive side and the non-competitive side, and we'll support them however we can. But what our strength is with our team is just to kind of run spectacles. And so by doing that, we're trying to make a loud noise that people will hear who don't normally listen to pinball-related stuff. And one of the things that this festival will do is allow us to reach different cross-sections of gaming and just of the general population around Pittsburgh who have no idea we exist, who have no idea competitive pinball exists, like I didn't know it existed not too long ago, and bring them into the fold.
Let me ask you about the Replay Foundation first, because for those that don't know the history of Papa, Kevin Martin bought the Papa name and the collection, and we had the flood, and there's a lot of great history to read about. It's a pretty interesting story, but it seems like there's been a transition over the past couple years where Kevin started the Replay Foundation, a nonprofit organization, and now the games and the headquarters and Papa as a whole are moving towards that, and now the festival you guys are putting on, which we need to get into, will be branded under that Replay name. Tell me more about that and sort of how that's happened and what the thought processes are there.
Well, the reason the Replay Foundation exists is so if something bad happens, Papa doesn't go away. It's as a nonprofit, it's a lot more stable long term than it would be just under private ownership. And if Kevin has brought anything to this hobby, it's generosity. And by donating these games, he has created a situation where Papa is going to outlast all of us by being a part of the Replay Foundation.
Whose idea was the Replay FX show?
That would have been mine.
Are you really going to move all of those games across town?
Personally, not a chance. No.
Or make John do it.
John will be moving them all out. You're the muscle, I see.
Not the brains.
Yeah, so if Papa has a failing, it's that the building we're in is kind of weak for large events. Anyone who's been there can tell you that there's a condemned building not too far away. The bathrooms aren't in the best of shape. And there's a lot of great things about our facility, but there's a lot of bad things as well. And if we're going to throw an event where we want people to notice, we decided to take it down to the heart of Pittsburgh, to the heart of the city. We went to the David Lawrence Convention Center, which is it's a world-class facility. And I'm not personally moving all those games, but we have worked it out with different organizations to move everything and more, a lot of stuff that no one's ever seen before. And right before we started this Skype call, I had just spent an hour or two. I've been working on the diagram for months. So, it's an ongoing process. We're trying to refine it. And yes, everything is getting moved. And a lot of stuff is going to be coming in that people don't even know exists.
Is there concern moving that many pinball machines, some of which are rare, and I wouldn't say delicate exactly, but certainly games you wouldn't want damage to come to? Does that keep you up at night a little bit, thinking, oh my gosh, we're trucking these great games across town, it's going to be a service nightmare?
Yeah, there's always concern. But I would worry about it if no one had ever brought it up. But every single person we've ever talked to brings it up. It's something that we're very aware of. All the games that are rare or expensive are going to get extra care. It's something that we're taking into account.
What do you consider would be a successful Replay FX inaugural show in July and August?
I would consider it a success if I can get the locals around Pittsburgh who don't know we exist to be interested in what we're doing and to come in with their families, with their friends, enjoy it, and tell people about it for next year. The big goal is to introduce all of this great stuff that we're trying to build to new people. So if that happens, then I will consider the whole show a success.
Fantastic. I'm coming. I'm looking forward to it. It's my birthday. I appreciate the birthday party being thrown for me in Pittsburgh.
That's the real reason.
I know. I didn't want to say it. It's on my own show, the whole thing. That's awesome. So let me kind of jump around a little bit. I want to jump into the Papa TV Live. I loved these shows. I love the approach. I love the depth that we get, and I love the 1 hour-ish format of Papa TV Live the last few weeks. I was a little bummed when I logged in to watch it, and I found out the last show was going to be the season finale, quote-unquote, but I do understand schedules, and you guys are getting busy with Papa coming up. I'd love to hear kind of, John, how'd you dream that up? What were your thoughts? Did it go like you wanted it to? What could you see the future of Papa TV Live looking like? Let me hear that.
Well, how it came about was actually sort of weird. I was playing this game, Defense of the Ancients 2, and so I was looking on Twitch, and I was like, well, I could watch some more Defense of the Ancients, or let me just type in pinball and see what comes up. And there was this guy, and his handle was Lethal Frag, and he was playing digital pinball, and had, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 people watching him at 3 a.m. And I sat there for 45 minutes, absolutely spellbound, going, I can't believe there's 7,000 people watching this. And it was sort of like a eureka moment for me. It was something and I was like, wait a second, we can offer something like this, but instead of playing digital pinball, we have 500 machines that we could actually play. And I was like, and we could do it in a live format where people could ask questions. And it all came in like late night coffee induced haze. So,
coffee induced haze, you say?
Yeah. Large amounts of caffeine.
So, what was the thought process in choosing games in what you were going to feature? How'd you guys just whatever you felt like at the time, or were you putting some thought into that based on listener response?
Yeah. So at first we decided. At first, the sort of the formula was we were going to have a popular game, a not so popular game, and we were always going to try to vary the ages of the games that we were putting in. So we didn't want to just do modern games or just do old games. And it sort of started changing to where we started thinking up thematic ideas for the show by the end of the season. And actually, I thought that was sort of neat because that way we could tie it into a current event type of thing.
Doug, what was your role on Papa TV Live?
It's really basically John's brainchild. I mean, John brought it to life. I basically stop down every once in a while, and I get to run the board and chime in on commentary so that we can give Mark a break and he can actually get some sleep.
Sleep is good. Sleep is good. You guys will also be taking the whole live streaming setup to Louisville this weekend. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So and I'm sorry if I'm ignorant here. That is a Papa Circuit tournament, correct?
Yeah. The flights is they have a great event down there, and if we can take the circuit there, I'm happy to do so.
Let's talk about the circuit. How has that evolved over the last couple of years? And I know 2015 brought some changes in how the events were going to get laid out a little bit. How are you choosing where to put Papa Circuit events? Have you learned anything doing that now? And
yeah. So the circuit early on was just a way for us to support other tournaments, and we didn't want to do it just by by just like tossing it on a website or talking about it on one of our own things or like putting out flyer flyers. We wanted to try and be a little bit more hands-on and talk to people and see if we can, help trade some of the information that we've acquired from running all these different tournaments. And, different people have different strengths. And I've learned a lot from going to these circuit events and watching tournament directors. I've seen things that worked. I've seen things that failed. And if I can help spread that information to other people, then the circuit is serving its purpose, in addition to just promoting pinball in general. Early on, we chose tournaments based... They were based on a submission process, but really it was just people who emailed me and were interested and wanted to do it. And a lot of the tournaments were based on people that we had pre-existing relationships with, just because that was easiest in order to get it off the ground. Moving forward, I'm trying to get Papa to take a back seat because there's this perception that the tournaments are all locked in and it's whoever we pick, and that's really not the case at all. This year, literally every single tournament that's submitted to be on the circuit is on the circuit because we wanted to put the decision making in the players' hands, and in order to do that, we took a back seat this year on the schedule. I think it's 19. 20 tournaments submitted. They're all on it. And then next year, the players are going to vote. And the top 20 who submit are going to be on it. If, for one reason or another, a tournament has a problem, then we can hopefully poll the players, find out why they voted the way they did, and then help that tournament improve.
The circuit final takes place in the days before Papa. Is that correct? Yeah,
it's the Wednesday before Papa 18.
Tell me about the format for the circuit final, because I think it's one of the coolest tournament style formats I've ever seen.
So the circuit final is a ladder bracket. The bottom 4 seeded players all play one game, and the person who loses is eliminated and is replaced by the next highest seed. The next highest seed comes in and gets to choose either the game to be played or the order that he wants to go in. So they can either choose to be first, second, third, or fourth, or the game to be played. And then they do it again until it gets down to, the final 4.
Final 4.
And so you basically low man loses each time, and then you add in the next guy.
Yeah, so it's a battle of attrition. It's not easy to come in early on and make it the whole way to the final, but it has been done.
Sure has. Daniele Acciari did it, and year one.
Wow. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the formats you're seeing around at the different circuit events versus each other? I know there's been a lot of talk of Herb-style formats and just spending money to try and qualify versus what we see at Papa, which is truly set up to reward players for consistency, and you can't just keep playing one game until you get that score there. You've got to put a ticket in.
I think that there's a lot of best game or Herb-style format tournaments just because it's a successful format. There's just a lot of them. So the circuit historically has had a fair share of those, but it's not something that we do on purpose. That's just what the tournament directors in those locations want to run. Coming up on this year's circuit, there's pin golf. There's a couple different match play tournaments. We're helping the guys down in Oklahoma City get one of those off the ground, and there's actually a tournament that Kevin Stone's running at MagFest next January with no entry fees. So there's a wider variety, I think, this year than there has been in the past, but it's not really based on our choice or our guidance so much as it is people the individual tournament directors making different choices this time around.
John, you just played in the Pennsylvania State Championships, is that correct?
That's correct.
How did that go for you? Tell me about your run there.
The state championship did not go too well for me. I was knocked out in the second round by Greg Galaner, who was playing on his head. He was absolutely being amazing. And Mahesh Murthy ended up becoming our state champion. He beat Al Tomka in the finals after knocking out Chris Stevens in the semifinals. So Mahesh, he earned his stripes on that day.
What game did you lose on?
The final game I lost on was one that nobody would ever expect me to pick. I picked a game called Stellar Wars because I recognized it's a classic solid state game that's known to be brutal. And I saw that Greg was actually, his accuracy was absolutely amazing, and he was reacting amazingly well to stuff. So I was like, well, there's one trick he doesn't have in his arsenal, and he doesn't know how to alley pass. So I was just going to sit there on that game and alley pass, just to hit the in-lane switch back and forth.
And that game has double in-lanes on both sides.
That's right. And unfortunately, I didn't get to flip. So I didn't really have a chance to enact my big strategy. So...
Doug, running tournaments locally in Pittsburgh, what is the Pittsburgh Pinball Open? What tournament style is that?
So the PPO is a Papa style tournament. There's the main tournament is Papa style, where it's 4 games on a ticket, and it's for the reasons that you mentioned earlier. I believe that the Papa style format is one of the better formats to run, just because it rewards consistency. And you don't necessarily have to put in a ton of entries in order to qualify.
Last year, I came to Papa and was blown away by the facilities, blown away by how well the tournament was run. And a lot of conversation kind of came out of the tournament afterwards about different divisions, and I know people talked about a women's division or possibly an even lower beginners division. And you guys at Papa have made the decision to add in a D division as well as a split flipper division this year. What are your thoughts there, Mark? What drove the change? What do you expect that to bring out in the tournament this year?
So this is kind of a two-part answer. The first part, with regard to the D division, is I come from the school of give the players what they want. There's also a little note on the Papa 18 page that mentions in the future we're going to be allowing people to submit divisions. So if there's something people out there want to see, then let us know. And if there's enough groundswell, then it'll happen. And there'll be, ideally in the future, there'll be different parts of the floor used rather than just the red carpet. And we can even have kind of like a minor league of divisions. If something gets enough players to cross a certain threshold, then that particular division will be played on the red carpet. If it falls below a certain threshold, then it'll be moved to one of the minor league areas. And I feel like that kind of process will allow Papa to succeed by giving the players what they want and also by staying fresh, because there's plenty of people out there who have a lot of good ideas, and our crew can't think of everything. So if someone's got a killer idea, then we're building a way for them to tell us about it. And the second part of your question with the split flipper, that was added because John cut his hand off, and we didn't. I didn't know if he was going to be able to play in anything, and so I just wanted to give him an opportunity to.
Are you serious? Was that really why?
Yes, he's serious about you cutting your hair.
Yes, John, you did nearly cut your hand off. That's well documented.
I mean, it was part of the reason. Like the split flipper division. The split flipper division was really just because split flipper's fun. I enjoy doing it. I think it's a casual way to play. I think a lot of people sometimes maybe take pinball too seriously, and I think by doing something, with a friend or a partner, like split flipper, just get out there and have a good time. And
I believe the tournament directors are allowed to play in that one. Am I correct?
Yeah. I wanted to introduce a division that was just a little looser, just something where people can kind of relax a little bit on in a competitive way. I hate it whenever I see people take competitive pinball so seriousseriously that it sucks the fun out of it. Because if you're not having fun, what are you doing? I mean, no one's going to these tournaments to get rich. No one's going to these tournaments, to blow anyone else's minds or become famous or anything like that. I mean, you got to have fun whenever you play. And the reason I personally like competitive pinball is because it puts me in positions where I think about the game in ways where I playing casually, I never would. I would never think about it that way, and so it just opens up a different way to enjoy pinball. And the split flipper division, in addition to John cutting his hand off, was just to try and introduce a little bit more fun into it.
Is it tough to go to Papa every year? And I mean, I know how busy you are. I saw you running around like crazy last year. Is it tough to go and not be in the tournament?
Yeah, it is actually. I do miss it. But I get my kicks. I get to play all the best players, and I play them after hours or just at different times. John's a big competitive outlet for me. We hang out a lot whenever we're brainstorming about stuff and play games one-on-one, and I know he always gives me his best, so I can kind of gauge how I'm doing by how I play against him, and he usually beats me, but we go back and forth a decent amount.
It's 50%.
50-50, really?
It's 50%.
John, what would it mean for you to win the A division at Papa?
It's sort of been a dream of mine for a long time. Unfortunately, my wife actually hasn't had that talk with me, sort of like Anastasia had with Mark, where
no reality check.
she hasn't told me the truth yet. I believe I'm sort of a math geek, not to the level of maybe Bowen, but I was sitting down and I actually calculated what I thought the odds were of me winning the world championship this year.
I'm gonna love this. This is awesome.
And I came up with a figure of 1 in 900. So
1 in 900.
How did you get to that?
There won't even be 900 people in the A division.
Well, yeah, but
no,
it's
1 in 900 odds.
1 in 900 odds, right?
What's your best run? Where was your best finish in a Papa A division?
I've qualified I've played in the A division 4 years, and I've qualified 2 of those 4 years. Last year, I actually made it out of the first round, and so I guess last year would be my best finish.
You're moving in the right direction.
I'm moving in the right direction. I don't... It would take, A, the best performance of my life, and B, some epic luck to go along with it. So...
What games do you dread in that bank of A division games? Is there anything in there you're looking at and you're looking at Mark shaking your head like, why did you pick that?
Actually, the only game in there besides Orbiter 1, you mean?
Well, we'll get to that.
I can't believe people took that serious.
Everybody took it serious.
I can't believe that.
Actually, so we had just done a Papa TV Live episode where we had talked about games that you wouldn't want to put in a tournament. And one of those games was actually CSI. Mark, you had left early that night. So I don't even know if you knew we'd put CSI in that show. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that, but I had jumper cables on the one in the back. I'd been testing it for a little while, trying to work with the switch matrix to get it usable.
Right. I mean, and for those who don't know, there's a exploit that's common on many machines, Stern, Bally Williams alike, where you can actually hit a number of switches, put a ball back in the trough, and it resets the state of the machine, allowing you to do the same exact action again without physically having the ball in play. And CSI is one of those games. But I guess you've done something with this CSI then.
Yeah, it turns out the solution is just jumpering the in lanes to the out lanes. And you hear that sound effect a whole lot, but the out lanes will automatically validate the playfield whenever virtually nothing else will. There's a couple different ways to jumper multiple switches together. But whenever you do that, you get into weird switch matrix problems. Like if you jumper the right in lane to the left bullet target, then it will cause like the center ramp to fire repeatedly and all kinds of weird stuff like that. But yeah, just doing in lanes to out lanes ended up being the solution.
So to actually answer your question, Nate, I actually like that game. I tend to gravitate towards games that are what you would call the grind. Where you actually have to perform actions over and over again until you're sick of doing it, and then try to do it some more. So that's one of the games I'm real happy to see. And I don't know. I don't like anything else. So at least I like one of the 10.
There you go. Mark, I think most tournament directors think about game selection more as what do I have to put in this tournament. You can walk the facility and literally endless choices. Do you find yourself just walking by a game every once in a while and you just stop and think, yeah, that one hasn't been out in a while? How are you picking games?
That happens constantly. Doug and I talk about this all the time, and we pick games per division. Well, let me rephrase that. There's a different philosophy for how we pick the games for each division. Junior, seniors, generally, for the juniors players, I'm going to try and put in games with repeatable shots and that are very easily explainable. Medieval Madness or Attack from Mars or NBA or something like that. I'm playing NBA. What do I do? You can just shoot the right ramp over and over. Or I'm playing Medieval Madness. What do? I just shoot the castle over and over. And then you step up to to C division, and we're going to stick with mostly. I try and stick with mostly popular games. Doesn't always work out that way, but I usually try and make the C bank physically easier, but also mostly games that the players can either learn how to play quickly or are used to seeing. Like I said, it doesn't always work out that way, but that's the philosophy a lot of the times. And then B division is kind of an in-between C and A division. In A division, I believe to be the world champion, you need to be able to learn how to play a game on the fly and adapt. Or maybe play a game that you're used to playing in a way that you're not used to playing that game. So, we'll put a game out there maybe that people are familiar with, but protect an area of the playfield that's usually safe, or rather make it make an area of the playfield that's usually safe dangerous. And there's different ways to do this. And whenever Doug and I are walking around the facility, we're always looking for ways to take games that aren't typically used in tournaments and make them usable. Just because it gives us latitude to choose new games, to challenge players in different ways. And competitive pinball has a lot of different skill sets. You have to be able to repeat shots. And so I have no problem putting a game in the A bank where you have to hit the same shot 45 times and make that the skill. Because, hey, everyone says, oh, it's easy. You just got to do it over and over. Well, go do it. Show me that you can do it. Now, if you do it for 3 hours, then that's a problem. But and then there's other things. John was talking about chatting the in lanes. So a lot of times we'll put games in there that will specifically invite players to do different things like chats the in lane. Alien Star last year, we put double inlane rubbers on the right side specifically to entice players to shatch that inlane. And if they couldn't do it, then, they were at a disadvantage.
When you go and look at the new games that are coming out, when you look at the latest stuff from Stern, and now we even saw Wizard of Oz last year in A Division, are you quick to put those new games in, or do you want to see how they perform in other tournaments first?
It depends on who programs them. It depends on whether or not I have access to that programmer and can ask some questions. It depends on if other highly skilled players who I trust have given it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm not going to say that I will blanket say no to a new game just because it's new, but I won't say yes to a new game just because it's new either. It's just it all depends on the game, the layout, whether or not I need another fan layout or I need a lopsided layout, whether or not I need a control game or another flow game in the bank. There's a lot of different reasons I would choose a game or not choose a game.
Doug, what division did you play in last year, and what division will you play in this year? But you're a tournament director, and you're not playing in any division, I think is my answer, right?
I am playing in no division this year.
No division. Does that hurt your heart?
Lying. He's lying. It's split flipper.
Split flipper.
Yeah. Actually, the last competitive thing we did at Papa is myself and Mark and the Sharps got together during Pin Brawl and formed a team called IFPA-PAPA. Pleased to say we took the championship in Pin Brawl.
That's awesome. Talking about Pinburg specifically, we've had a schedule flip this year. Kaylee George will go down as the shortest ranking world champion of all time, as he's going to have to defend his championship in the spring instead of later in the year, as has been the annual schedule. What was the thought there? I mean, I guess the answer is you wanted to have Pinburg at the Replay FX show. What do you think that's going to have an effect as far as attendance? As far as we saw 700 people bought into Pinburg immediately, one day, something like that.
Yeah, Pinburg sold out in 10 hours. And it, to be honest, it kind of bothers me whenever people talk about, how fast it sold out. That's not something I necessarily celebrate because it's a huge problem. If you have to go another 6 months and you can't accommodate people who want to be a part of your tournament. Mm-hmm. Am I proud that it's sold out? Yes. And I'm also very grateful that it's sold out. But at the same time, it tells me that, we're not necessarily fulfilling all that we can fulfill because there's more people who want to be involved. And that same thing and that same thought process occurred whenever Pinburg sold out the year before at 400 players extremely quickly. And we said, okay, well, let's try and see if the sweet spot is 700. Well, it turns out the sweet spot's higher than 700. So that was a little bit of a tangent. But, moving Pinburg to August occurred because we wanted it to be a part of the festival. And one of the reasons we're doing the festival is actually because we needed a new facility in order to hold Pinburg in order to expand because there were more people who wanted involved. Whether or not it will affect attendance, do you mean it affect attendance for Pop 18 or just for the festival in general?
I'm kind of thinking about Pop 18. I'm wondering if the spring date is going to maybe hinder some people who would have normally been able to make it out.
Yeah, I think it probably will be, or I think it probably will. But we didn't want to go later because there's sort of this knot of pinball tournaments all tied up in the spring, and we didn't want to step on anyone else's toes. I think the year before, it ended up falling on Texas Pinball Festival, and I have absolutely no interest in trying to damage another show by overscheduling my dates, on theirs. So this weekend was one of the ones that was just available in the spring. And so like any other tournament director or event director, we picked the one where we felt the most players would be able to come and enjoy it without affecting another big event.
What do I see? What should I expect in the future for Papa TV in general, not just with Papa TV Live? Will I ever see more Papa Roadshow episodes? What are your thoughts about video and internet content and Papa's responsibility to provide that and help grow the things?
Well, I can talk to part of that, and I think John can probably talk to the rest. I've had a lot of emails about the Roadshow. It's an extremely fun project to work on, but it's a ton of work. And the festival, for the time being, kind of killed it. There's too much going on right now, so it took a back seat. It's not gone forever, but it's gone for right now. And one of the things that happened to fill that gap and to get the equipment used was John doing Papa TV Live. To talk to, our responsibilities for, pinball video and that type of thing, I feel like one of the primary goals or resources on the Papa website is that video archive. It used to be at pinball.org, and that actually occurred specifically because whenever I was bar hopping with my brother trying to find out how to play new games, I wanted that. I wanted to be able to see the best players in the world play these games and see how they do it. I remember the first time I saw someone tap pass, it blew my mind. And it opened me up to a whole new world, like, oh, well, now I have to relearn how to play all these different games because tap passing exists. And the video archive was a project specifically to try and aid players in that situation who are just coming onto the scene and to give them a resource where they could see Bowen or Keith or Kaylee or John or, some of these other better players do things. And then, John did Papa TV Live, and he can probably talk to you more about that.
Actually, something I'd like to add to what you were saying there, Mark. Pinball is especially difficult nut to crack because there's two barriers to entry for it. First, there's the barrier entry you see in almost every other sport, which is the skill barrier. But second, there's also a monstrous and huge knowledge barrier. And I think one of the jobs of anybody who's doing pinball broadcasting is to break that knowledge barrier, break that down, and show people what you know, show people how to learn, and I think that's the big thing there.
How hard is that when you guys are doing the broadcast? And I remember specifically at Expo last year, I left in the morning from Chicago and got home and thought, oh, I got to log in and see who won the tournament. And it was still going. And I think I watched 2 hours of pinball after I had flown halfway across the country, and that tournament had run all day. How difficult is it? I do these 45-minute podcasts. It's pretty easy to just, run my mouth. You're literally talking for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes during these events. What are your goals? Are you trying to get across as you do that long of a format?
I think the worst thing is just sounding stale after hours. Keith Johnson and Adam Lefkoff did the calling for that, and they were absolutely amazing for 8-9 hours of broadcast there. It was one of the most amazing broadcast feats I've seen.
Yeah, depending on the format and the length, it becomes harder to be an announcer because, how many times can you call multi-ball on Dirty Harry? So as many times as you see people play it, and the guys we have, John is great at it. The Sharps are really good at it. Steve Bowden's fantastic at it. Adam Lefkoff. The people who step up and volunteer their time and get on the mic and do a fantastic job. I mean, like John said, it's amazing people's ability. And most of the, I don't think anybody's actually a trained announcer, but to keep it interesting and keep it fresh as they're describing, something they may have seen 5 times that game already.
Whenever we ran that Kickstarter, it created content. We got a lot of new equipment, and we started putting out a lot of new videos. But one of the other things that it did that is even more important in my mind is it created potential. It created the possibility. These broadcasts are still in their infancy. We don't know what they're going to be like in 2-3 years. We don't know who's going to notice or who they're going to interest, in a year or two. So that Kickstarter, in addition to getting more pinball videos up, it also created a situation where we can show people how to do it or encourage other groups to come out and start live streaming stuff and just kind of push the whole pinball video movement forward, just give it a kick in the butt. And I don't know what we're going to come up with. I didn't know Papa TV Live would have existed, 8 months ago, but it does now. And I don't know what's going to exist 8 months from now, after Replay FX. We'll see.
How many of the circuit events do you guys plan on broadcasting?
That all depends on volunteer schedules. A lot of times we don't know that we're going to be broadcasting something until immediately before, because a lot of the people who do the hard work for us, they have full lives and real jobs, and we don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I would like to say that we're going to get out to do, in between 5 and 10, but I don't know that schedule until we talk to all the volunteers who actually make it happen.
That's awesome. John, you've scared me a little bit and told me you had something you wanted to ask me. I will defer to you here with a little bit of fear in my voice.
Don't be afraid. Nothing can get hurt here. So on the Papa TV Live, I am scared to death to tackle any issue that's confrontational or I don't know, or politically on the edge, let's say. And I noticed you don't shy away from it on Coast to Coast. I mean, and maybe that's the difference between a live and a recorded format. But how do you go about tackling stuff that's sort of controversial?
I think that I'm lucky because from the very beginning of this show, I said right out front, this is my commentary. I make mistakes on the show all the time, and I get the emails, and I just I try not to make mistakes on anything that's going to hurt anybody or damage the hobby as a whole. I think I could be much more controversial if I just said everything that pops in my head. But there's no reason to. There's very little good to come from me. If I see a new game from a new manufacturer, I'm going to give my honest opinion every time, and I will get the emails from that manufacturer the next morning. And that was really hard for me at first because I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. But I'm not going to go out of my way. You representing Papa, I think, are in even more difficult position because it's not just John and his opinions in his show that's one man in a podcast. You have the Papa banner behind you. You have Mark sitting next to you, Doug right next to you. You're kind of on this team you're the good guys. You're Papa. You have the games. I mean, it's going to be tough for you to do that. And your opinions and what you say will carry a certain type of weight that I don't think I have, because at the end of the day, when people disagree with me, it's no big deal because I'm just some idiot with a microphone, whereas you have the Papa banner all around you. So I don't envy you on some levels. That will be more difficult. I think you guys do a great job. You guys are also humble and welcoming. That was one of the things that I really was excited about when I got to Papa, is how just sort of open and warm the whole place felt, whereas other tournaments I've been to at other shows were not as much. And there's an instance where I didn't jump on the show and go bashing the North Dakota Pinball Expo and say how horrible and cold it was and they weren't nice to me, because it doesn't really do anybody any good, because for those people in that area of this fictitious show, that's all they have, and they need to get it there. But yeah, that's going to be tough. You're going to run into that. And so I don't know. I don't think anybody will, if I don't really say what I mean, or how do I put this? As soon as I censor myself on my just basic opinion, then it doesn't really matter what I say anymore, because it's all just fluff.
I feel like I have to censor myself all the time, just because, like, I say stupid stuff. I open my mouth and stupid stuff often comes out, so...
In your format scares me because I don't think that... I rarely hear, and I've listened to many, many hours of your broadcast, I don't hear, like, opinions or thoughts on things that I ever think are out of line. I just know that when you get that deep into a machine after so many, hours on a machine, or just, 30 minutes talking about one machine... you've got to know you should know a lot about the game, and if you don't, that's where I get kind of freaked out, like, oh my gosh, how would I even begin to talk about Alien Star for an hour? There's really only so much I could say. So that's where I don't envy you guys, is just the sheer knowledge of the games, and that's why it's so great when you do have a Steve Bowden or an Adam Lefkoff or somebody like that come on who can just rattle off like what every rollover switch counts for points-wise in the back of their head. They know this stuff. And it's a cool format.
Yeah, and another big part of the Papa TV broadcast is the chat room. A lot of times, if John doesn't know the answer to something, he'll say, hey, someone in the chat room know what the answer to that is, and we can get that instant feedback from the audience.
it's so cool that we have a community that's willing to sit in a chat room with you for a pinball broadcast, watching somebody else across the country play and ask questions. That same fervor and excitement about the hobby, as I'm sure you all run into, does bring out people, and sometimes the manicness in people would be a nice way of putting it, who are maybe too excited and they want to be a part of it so badly, and sometimes they don't feel that they're a part of it, so they decide they will be controversial or lash out, or you see them on message boards oftentimes just trying to make a scene, and that's the downside to people being so into pinball, if there is a downside, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for Papa and Papa TV. I think this is going to be a banner year for you guys. I can't wait for Papa in a few weeks. I'm excited to see the new divisions. I'll have the T-shirt on that says "Dead Money." That's this guy.
I like it.
I have to apologize to everybody on the wait list for Pinburg. Yes, I am going to waste one of those 700 slots on myself. Sorry. I can't wait. It's very exciting. And Mark, John, and Doug, I really thank you guys so much for spending some time on Coast to Coast Pinball and chatting about the world that we live in.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
That was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, friendly listener, that's a pressure-filled interview segment with 3 different people trying to, get some good thoughts out of everybody and feel like I'm not wasting anybody's time that they're sitting there on that call. So thank you, Mark, Doug, and John, for being such good sports coming on the show. And I look forward to maybe getting them on the show remotely from Papa and from Pinburg later in the year. Going to be a lot of fun. I'll be at both events, and I hope that many of you listening will get out to those. And if you don't, definitely tune into Papa TV and watch their coverage of not just Papa, not just Pinburg, but as many of the circuit events as they do end up doing. I know that lots of you are thinking, wow, I bet there's some great outtakes to that show. No outtakes whatsoever. That could never happen. Have a good night. Thank you for listening to Coast to Coast Pinball. Take care. Too funny. Is your hand better? Are you playing okay now?
Actually,
It's funny because I'm just going to interrupt John. We had a tournament in Pittsburgh on Sunday, and John's in the final, and almost after every drain, John looks at his hand and goes, "You've betrayed me."
Sure. I mean, I love to run my mouth.
I mean,
better do your homework.
Yes.
Or the beating will happen.
Yeah.
The sawing will happen. I'm known as a guy who does big moves to a machine.
Big slap saves?
Yeah, big slaps, big everything. I don't do anything subtle in life. And my wife is
I hear her laughing.
you have full permission. Anytime someone at Papa is in a chainsaw accident, you can say whatever you want about it. John, you picked Stellar Wars? What the hell?
He did, and everybody in the facility was like, "Oh my god, what is John doing?"